Have you ever dealt with those strange, really confusing pains that just don't seem to make sense? Well, if you have, this is for you. We're going to break down nerve pain, which is a whole different beast than your typical injury. So let's dive right in. Does any of this sound familiar? You know, that burning feeling in your hands or feet? Or maybe a tingling that just won't quit? Or how about a sudden shooting pain that comes out of absolutely nowhere? If you're nodding along, you're in the right place. These are the classic signs that it's your nerves, not your muscles, that are sending out the SOS. And this gets to the heart of why it's so frustrating. You know, normal pain, like from a cut or a bruise, it has a clear cause. It makes sense. And eventually it heals. But nerve pain? The source can feel like a total mystery. It can hang around forever. And that confusion is it's maddening. Okay, so here is the most important idea we need to get our heads around. This is the big shift. For a lot of people, nerve pain isn't really about a nerve being damaged. It's about your entire nervous system being on high alert. It's like the sensitivity dial has been cranked all the way up to 11. And to make this super clear, let's use a really simple analogy that just perfectly captures this idea. Think about an overly sensitive car alarm. Right? A normal car alarm goes off if someone's actually trying to break in, but a hypersensitive one, it'll start blaring just because a single leaf falls on the windshield. Now, the alarm itself isn't broken, its sensitivity is just set way too high. And that is exactly what's happening with your pain circuits. They're taking these tiny, minor signals and reacting as if they're a 5-alarm fire. So the obvious next question is, why? Why is the whole system on such high alert? Well, it's usually not just one thing. There are these interconnected reasons, and we're about to unpack the 6 hidden drivers that are really contributing to this state of hypersensitivity. So we're going to be looking at how blood flow, inflammation, your body's energy supply, stress, your gut health, and even something as simple as your posture all feed into this. All right, let's jump into the first one. First up, the autonomic nervous system. You can think of this as your body's automatic control center. It handles all the stuff you don't think about, and one of its biggest jobs is managing blood flow. And when it gets out of whack, circulation is often one of the first things to go a little haywire. So here's the chain reaction. When blood flow gets reduced to your extremities, like your hands and feet, those nerves are literally being starved of oxygen. That state is called hypoxia, and it really irritates the nerve endings. The result, that classic burning and tingling feeling that so many people describe. Next, let's talk about your immune system. You know, we usually think of inflammation as like a swollen ankle, but it's also a chemical process, and those chemicals can directly poke and provoke your nerves. So what happens is your immune cells can start releasing molecules like histamine. And what that does is it basically makes your nerves all jumpy and, well, hyperexcitable. It doesn't necessarily create pain out of thin air, but what it does is it lowers the bar for what your body decides is painful. It just heightens your sensitivity across the board. All right, driver number 3 is all about energy. Your nerves are incredibly high maintenance. They are super energy-hungry cells. They need a constant, steady stream of power just to do their job properly. Now, the little power plants inside your cells are called mitochondria. And when they get run down, maybe from chronic stress or not enough of certain nutrients like B vitamins, your nerves just can't maintain their electrical stability, so they start firing randomly, just erratically, and your brain interprets all that chaotic noise as pain or tingling or numbness. This brings us right up to the brain itself, specifically the limbic system. This is your emotional headquarters, your threat detection center, and it has a really profound link to how you physically experience pain. And listen, this is so important. This is not about the pain being all in your head. It's in your neurochemistry. When your brain is stuck in a state of constant threat or just being on edge all the time, it physically strengthens the fight or flight pain pathways. It literally turns up the volume on any pain signals it receives. Number 5 is a really fascinating one that science is understanding more and more about, this super highway of communication that runs between your gut and your brain. See, inflammation in your gut doesn't just stay in your gut. It sends signals straight up a big nerve called the vagus nerve directly to your brain. This can set off something called neuroinflammation, which basically sensitizes your entire brain. And what you get is this vicious feedback loop where a stressed out gut and a stressed out brain just keep making each other worse. And finally, our 6th driver is a structural one. It's all about the physical signals your brain is getting from your body. especially from that supercritical area at the top of your neck. The upper neck is this major hub for nerve pathways. So if you've got a lot of tension or even a slight misalignment there, it can cause those sensory pathways to just misfire. Your brain gets these garbled, confusing signals and might interpret them as pain or tingling in your face or down your arms, even when the real root of the problem is all the way up in your neck. Okay, so we've looked at 6 pretty different things, right? Circulation, the immune system, energy, stress, the gut, and the neck. So, what's the common thread here? What ties all of this together? Here's the big takeaway. If you remember one thing, let it be this. It's not just a nerve problem. It's a system problem. It's the story of a body that is stuck in a chronic state of high alert, where the nervous system, the immune system, and the energy system are all just overreacting and working overtime all at once. So, if the problem is a whole system that's stuck on high alert, what's the solution? Well, the path forward isn't really about chasing one symptom. It's about changing the overall state of the system. It's about helping the body as a whole find a sense of safety again. This quote really it says it all, doesn't it? The goal is to create an internal environment where the nervous system doesn't feel like it's constantly under attack. Because when the body feels safe again, those pain pathways quiet down and the nerves can finally rest. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We've just spent this time unpacking the why behind all these confusing symptoms. And maybe that knowledge itself is a really powerful first step. What if simply understanding why your body is sounding all these alarms is the very first step toward helping it feel safe again? Thanks so much for joining us for this one.